All right, what's up, guys? That video was competitor Dr. Sunny Andrews verbally attacking her ex-boyfriend, ex-coach, I guess you want to call them both of them, Chris Nemzik. His information is, his Instagram is IFBB Pro Wellness if you want to contact him for contest prep or whatever. So usually, like, this is like a lot of relationship drama stuff, which, we actually just got off the phone. He contacted me. We spoke for about an hour and a half. All of it wasn't about her, but a lot of it was. Most of the conversation was basically he got into some trouble with her and a mess with her. And here is the story, kind of all that. So basically, I guess they started dating in 2021. And, when you're a competitor, everybody wants to know, like, oh, who's your coach? Who's helping you? She's, been featured with Even Gym Nutrition. So first people thought Hani was her coach. And then she was posting that George Farah was her coach. I'm friends with George. And then this guy, I've posted 2 videos on my TikTok about her just because, she's a competitor. She's well known and she's a doctor. So that kind of sets her apart from other people. Oh, she's a doctor and a competitor. That's impressive, right? And she comes across as a really, nice and friendly and bubbly and personality. And dating in the industry, I can tell you, I've done it before, and it's it wasn't for me at all. It's, you got a lot of nutty people trying to compete for whatever they're dealing with. Some can be positive, some can be negative, but myself did not have good luck with dating competitors. So I always liked dating outside of competitors, and it was just way less drama. I mean, there's already drama dating, but just when you had that breakup, you didn't have to see them still at all these events. And, a lot of times when girls are taking all these hormones, and guys too, but girls much more, when they're taking hormones, it makes them much more, out there. So basically they met, okay, a friendly meetup. They hung out before. I think it was like in 2020, they met in Orlando. Wasn't a big deal, no relationship stuff. They met again after that, and she was married. Her husband's a big guy, like 6'7", basically, because when I made a story on her before, I looked on her Instagram to, kind of get information, because it was just from kind of other people, and then people keep asking me to make videos. And then all I saw was this kind of like fair-skinned guy with red hair, kind of gingerish guy. So he's a big guy, 6'7". And so basically Chris Nemzik, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, Chris. Chris and her started dating. And she basically told him, hey, I'm in an open relationship. He was kind of sounding like okay with that at first, but not really. And when you're dating someone, sometimes you do some things when you're into a person that, might not necessarily, you kind of look back and you're like, what was I thinking, right? We've all done that. So basically she said, oh, I'm in an open relationship. He allows me to date, but I'm going to divorce him. And so I think, eventually people form feelings for each other and kind of deal with each other's, that's what a relationship's about. You're supposed to deal with each other and, see if you get along well enough to eventually maybe get married, maybe not. Everybody has all sorts of different ideas of what a relationship is. I'm pretty old-fashioned when it comes to relationship-wise. I'm kind of like, okay, you date somebody. If you guys are a match, eventually, date for a while and get engaged, get married. I wanted to have kids. So so I'm pretty old school. Now, people you don't know, when you meet somebody, you got to even make sure, like, what are you? Are you he, she, it, them, they, animal, dog? What are you? You just have, so I'm really old fashioned. So I would not have fun dating these days, right? So you meet people and they put on their best foot forward when they're meeting someone, because you're trying to impress someone. Eventually you get to know the person and their bad habits come out. Hey, we all have our bad habits. It's like Some's like, oh, I can look past that, or I can't look past this one. And some people mesh and some people don't. And some people are just really, really toxic together. They should not be together at all. But one thing I'm really against is women that cry wolf, okay? There's so many women out there, and I've dealt with it deeply myself, that will make up stories, badmouth your name, call the police, try to get legal stuff going on, in hopes to ruin your life, right? Guys really aren't like that. A lot of men. I don't know that many men that try to ruin people's life like in that way. But a lot of times, what is a man going to call and say? I mean, in relationships, I've been hit before, but what am I going to call the cops and say if she beat me up? No, they would laugh, right? So I'm really against when a woman is out lying about people and telling them false things. And Chris sent me the paperwork from the court and all that. So basically, I'm going to cut this down short. They were in a relationship. We went in deep into detail. I'm not going to get that deep into everything we talked about, but he coached her. He's been coaching her for all these different shows. So the shows they won together in 2021 and 2022 were Milwaukee Pro was second place, Mr. Olympia 6th place, Texas Pro 3rd place, DC Pro 1st place, and Arnold the 3rd place. So I always wondered kind of who was her coach too, especially lately, because her glutes looked like a small alien was growing in it. And she went from doing very, very well to placing horribly, not placing at all at Mr. Olympia, and then a repeat at the Arnold. And she's coming out saying, oh, I don't put anything in my glutes. I used IGF, and that's what did it. And as a competitor, we all know, and as a judge myself for 7 years, we all know that it's some sort of filler. A lot of people thought it was a butt implant. It's not an implant, though. She even went as far as to post MRI pictures saying, hey, nothing's in my butt. And the wellness category, I'm not a fan of where it's going. First off, bodybuilding is about being symmetrical and proportion. And the wellness category, it was made for girls that could get in shape, but but their lower body still was kind of thicker and thick glutes. Now since they made that class, if you go to the amateur level and watch a show in wellness, it is completely different as what you see on the Olympia stage or the pro stage. Those girls are impressive. I mean, massive, huge cut up legs, big, crazy glutes. So people are going to do things to their body. And of course, hormones and steroids are a given that people that don't know, they do a lot of those. You want to keep women at a minimal. In her face, you can see it's changed dramatically with all the crazy fillers she's doing and all that. But the main problem with her is her glutes. And she placed last place because it's obviously she altered her glutes in some way that looked very, very, very unnatural. And a lot of times these girls and guys in general, you're never good enough. And so just like Heavy Synthol used before with like Nasser El Sambati when his rear delt was like out to here, and you're like, why did he do that to himself? Did he not see in the mirror it was creating some sort of horrible looking, thing? And people don't see it because it's so extreme and they do it every single day. But, sometimes people are their own worst enemy. And a lot of drama came out with her before too because she's a doctor, but she got caught cheating on the exam. She got a degree in the Caribbean, and she cannot practice anymore at all. She made an OnlyFans basically, and her husband were, I guess, doing this mutually, but then she told this guy, Chris, that they posted mutually or he posted it separately, and it's full on, pornography they're doing in there. And then there's pictures of her all over the internet, which now she's making to clean up. And I asked Chris on the phone, I'm like, with her becoming big in the fitness industry, did she not think her OnlyFans was going to get out there? But I mean, these girls are making $60,000 to $100,000 a month. It's like, that's sickening, right? Someone could go to medical school, they're making maybe a couple $100,000 a year or less, and these people are making that in a month, showing their booty. It's like, golly. But since she calls herself Dr. Sunny Andrews, you're like, okay, she's different, she's smart, she's educated, she's a competitor, she looks great, but it's all like complete lies over and over and over. And a lot of the business I'm not going to talk about because that's deep into their personal stuff. And it's like, you know, people have their fetishes and likes and all that. And that's their own deal, right? And I'm kind of rambling here because I made notes and I'm just freestyling this video because I wasn't even going to make this video. He contacted me and he saw that I made a couple videos before just talking about kind of like how crazy her glutes look. And he just wanted to give me the real story and then the relationship they had. And actually, he's been her coach the whole time. And I'm friendly with George Farr. I've known him over the years, but he's like, no, I was her coach during that time. She just posted that George was her coach to get her husband off her back. Because I guess, you know, this on and off relationship is crazy. She even filed a restraining order on Chris. Which, when I say Chris, this is Chris, her coach I'm talking about. And was also, I guess, an on and off boyfriend. And I asked him, I was like, during all this craziness, why didn't you leave? If a girl did a restraining order against me, I would be like, oh, I'm out of here. He said, you know, he saw good in her and saw competitiveness in her. And, you know, he cared about her. Obviously, he wanted to help her. So once you file a restraining order, he was saying it's hard, you just can't cancel the next day. So they were still seeing each other while he had this restraining order. And that could lead to some potential jail time, right? And so he even got into it with her husband on the phone. He goes, I thought you guys were, you know, getting a divorce. And he's just, I'm like, what's going on between them? She's saying she's getting a divorce, but she's not getting a divorce. And he's like, dude, I thought she was getting a divorce. And I wanted something, you know, a little more serious with her. And she told me, you know, the guy's dying of cancer. I have to be with him and all these different stories, which ended up being lies, okay? So a restraining order was filed against Chris just for the craziest reasons ever. Oh, he's abusive. He's physically abusive. He murdered a homeless man. Just weird stuff was in this restraining order. And so it got filed, and they actually, you know, had a run-in with the cops when he got stopped. And they actually let Chris go because the restraining order sounded so wacky, they were on his side. So eventually he goes to court and gets this restraining order. Like, he has documentation, like he said, I believe 800 pages of just text messages, proof of all the craziness that he's dealt with this woman and wanted his day in court. Even though it's not criminal, when you're accused as a guy of something and a girl, and I know it because I've dealt with this, a girl accuses a guy of like abuse in some sort of way, that's a serious accusation. And there is actually abused women out there that it's sad. And they do have a story. And it is a problem. Domestic abuse is a problem. And when you lie to people and say it's a problem when it's not and cry wolf like that, eventually people are like, oh yeah, women can say whatever they want and the guy will get arrested. And so what do women do when they're scorned? They do something like that. What's the easiest way for a woman to ruin a guy's life? He beat me up, right? They go arrest the guy. He loses his job, finances, spends money on attorney. So girls that do this, I have a huge problem with. And if you do that to a guy, that's super messed up. Just move on. I get it. Your emotions are involved, but to ruin a guy's life, especially when children are involved too. Luckily, he didn't have a child with this girl. It's sad. And I've dealt with it with women. And that's why I'm making this video also, not just because their situation is because you're a piece if you make a false accusation against somebody, because most of the time the police will just go arrest that person with zero evidence. And then you have to prove yourself innocent in court. And in the meantime, you're losing your job, business, whatever it may be, and it hurts your reputation, which that's all you've got. And that's a very serious accusation, saying someone physically hurt you or use weapons or whatever a person does. That's serious business. And when there's zero evidence at all, and you go to court and you still have to be worried in court, can I be convicted or not, just because, you know, it's an accusation still. And there's plenty of innocent people in jail today just because they didn't have the money to hire a proper attorney to prove in court, or they didn't have, text messages or evidence that they didn't lay a hand on this girl. And luckily, he didn't get to the criminal part. He went to his day in court, which was February 6th, opened a briefcase. They saw all the evidence he had, and they dismissed the case against him for the restraining order. And, I asked Chris, I'm like, dude, why would you involve yourself with all that craziness and potentially get in trouble? And luckily, this is his first relationship. Unfortunately, I've been in a couple of relationships where you see a little good in people and then you let it potentially ruin your life because you want to help this person. Or they might make us so guys out there, you've got to be really careful when a girl says, oh, my ex-boyfriend, did A, B, or C to me. Take it with a grain of salt, because it's a very, very common thing for women to do. But then people also do this. So I think if you lie about something as a woman like this, you should be punished harder, twice as hard as whatever the punishment for the man is, because that is no joke, and that will ruin somebody's life, and it has ruined people's life. Luckily, some people, including myself, have recovered from something so horribly, right? So basically, Dr. Sunny Andrews lost all her contracts after this whole crazy glute thing, and her OnlyFans got out, and she told people, that's not my OnlyFans, someone made it of me. And Chris would tell me she would have like 60 videos at all times in her phone, just with objects. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but there's different objects doing different things in all different ways. And literally, she would get, for the shortest, junkiest videos, some guys would even send her $3,000, $5,000 per video. Hey, if you want to go to OnlyFans, that's your own thing. Just remember, nothing is ever private. And fast money is fast money. It will go just as fast as you made it. And you want to have, whatever your morals are, morally, what I matter, it doesn't matter what I think. But it's much more respectable to me if someone's working a job, busting their butt, whether it be 9 to 5, 40, 60 hours a week, and bringing home, let's say, under $50,000, rather than showing their, all their holes for $50,000 a month. That's not going to get you a decent guy in the future. Hey, some people are open to whatever, and that's fine. That's your own business. But when you're dealing with professional things like being a doctor, you will lose your license for putting that kind of stuff out there. Okay? So she lost her contracts with Evogen, Bombshell, Trifecta, Transcend, and pretty much messed up her whole career. And her glutes are the main thing that's the issue, on her body, aside from all her personal issues. But hey, in this industry, there's a lot of people that are just out of their mind. And at times we do things that are a little out there, especially when we're prepping for shows. But this sounds like to me just a super toxic relationship. This guy, Chris, that's been her coach literally for 2 years straight, didn't get any recognition at any of the shows or anything, because people were like, who's her coach? And then she was tagging George as her coach. And I'm sure George was coaching her. And I'm sure he was giving her information, but she was doing whatever she wanted to on herself. Because at the Olympia, when her glutes looked like that, George was not okay. Someone told me George was oh my gosh, that looks terrible. So basically, she's using some sort of filler like hyaluronic acid or something to do this to her glutes. And what Chris said is, it looked like that the Arnold still, it just wasn't as pronounced. He said she stopped doing it, but it's still the after effect. When you're injecting something that fills a muscle, it's usually going to have some, after effects. And in wellness, it's all about glutes are a big part of the physique, but things can be too big. And just on this past Olympia and Arnold stage, I saw so many butt implants and filled up glutes. It looks terrible. Where do you draw the line with the judging and all that? They need to make a criteria for this wellness division. Specifically, we are going to start counting off for butt implants and fillers and injections in the glutes, because it looks horrible. And maybe a normal person can't see it, but a judge or professional in fitness or bodybuilding can obviously see it, and they should count off, and you should not be rewarded what takes some women years to build up glutes, and someone just fills it up this much. It's not like bodybuilding where you can do it to certain muscles because they will end up being smooth. So I'm glad Chris got all this, cleared up, and the video, I'm going to try to post this video of her coming up to him at the Olympia and just kind of like cussing him out and all this stuff, and someone recorded it. Because I've been in this guy's situation before where, dating someone and it got so messy, and then you kind of look back and you're like, why did I stay in that relationship that long? And the reason why is because as humans, we would naturally want to see like the good in people. Like, okay, and he was her coach too, so he wanted to get credit for his work, what he did with her. When you're prepping somebody, whether it be amateur, pro, national, it's exhausting, especially as you go along with them with each show and trying to perfect things. And when you travel with them, it's a very emotional, hard job. I mean, I've been doing it for 20 years. I work with a lot more normal people now than I do competitors just for that reason, because competitors cross the line so many times. And you have to draw a line a lot of times between, the friendship and the professional relationship. Unfortunately, it's just normal to get those two intertwined. And I've made so many friends before in this industry with a lot of my clients because it is work and you do spend time with these people and get to know them. But my advice to people is, in this industry, the fitness industry, is to keep things between y'all if you don't want to mess out of it. There's nonsense and BS, and relationships are hard in the first place. But in the fitness industry, you're there at every event, and y'all have to be cordial around each other. Unfortunately, this is one of those things that these people probably are never going to be okay again. And I've even asked Chris, like, why would you continue? And, men do have instincts, and they're like, oh, it's a woman and this. But you have to draw the line somewhere and say, hey, this woman's going to end me up in prison or some serious trouble just by her actions. He even said she would disappear sometimes weeks at a time, that she even self-committed herself to a mental facility before for help. And hey, that's your mental health. And if you need to do that, go for it. I'm all for getting mental health. But I was pretty much reporting on a story of the downfall of her career because a lot of people was like, what's happened to her? And why is she going from placing and winning shows to last place? Because of her glutes. And then the whole Dr. Sunny Andrews, you're like, wow, you're a doctor. But then come to find out she cannot practice anymore. She's still considered a doctor because she got her doctrine, but she's not a practicing doctor. And in that profession too, you cannot be at work taking all these selfies and doing all these little things. That's not professional, guys. If you're laying in a hospital bed and just had surgery, do you want to see your doctor doing dance moves in the break room? I wouldn't. So that's pretty much the story. I took, several notes down here. I'm glad he got out of this trouble with her. But, I mean, it's a mess, and there's so much more to the story. But like I said, that's meant to keep between them. And he didn't care if I reported it or not. He was very open and he gave me my full permission to make a video on this. And I think he did want a video made because it's always he said and she said when a relationship, when people break up, and people's always trying to pick a side. Sometimes you can't pick a side. Sometimes you got to say, hey, that's their personal business. I'm going to be this person's friend just because they're a friend, no matter what they did in that relationship or whatever. And I'm just glad I talked to him on the phone for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I'm pretty good at reading people. He seemed like a level-headed guy. He also sent me the paperwork of this dismissal of this restraining order. He also had a restraining order from her husband too. And he couldn't figure out if, he even talked to the guy on the phone before and was like, dude, are you guys not getting a divorce? He's like, no, we're married. And he's like, he was kind of scared to run into this guy. The guy's 6'7" and a huge guy. And when you're dealing with someone that's married, that's not something to play around with, because from my experience, wait till that person's divorced, because a lot of times I get it. People want to get on with their lives and date and all this, but you got to deal with that person's baggage. And I'm not trying to like trash anybody at all. I'm just stating information and the video, and he sent me the paperwork, and he asked if I wanted all the text messages between them and all that. I'm like, I didn't need to see all that. Obviously, he's not making up. He's willing to send it all. But, you know, that's a downfall of her career. And unfortunately, when you're in a profession, you have to uphold and keep your name at a certain level. And you have to, there's consequences to your actions. If you want to be a doctor and have that name and respect as the doctors do, because it is very hard work to get there, you can't go have an OnlyFans and be making like 50 or 60 or 70,000 a month. If you want to do an OnlyFans and own it and be that person, hey, that's all you. In the dating world, a lot of guys aren't going to be okay with that, and some are. I know a lot of guys too. They're involved with their wives or girlfriends' OnlyFans, and hey, that's your decision. Just call me old-fashioned. I think I pretty much told this whole story here. Glad that Chris got out of there, and hopefully this, I don't even know whether to call her doctor anymore, Sunny Andrews can get her act together and get her glutes, you know, back to normal. But the thing is, you have to stop lying. And when the lies are so obvious that everybody knows you're lying, you lose a lot of respect from people and your fans too. And you're coaching people and telling people, oh yeah, you could look like this when you can't. So be real. And she also has a sister that's a competitor too, that's actually placing ahead of her now. And their relationship's a whole nother story and really messy too. I'm not going to get into that. That's their own family issues. But that's the story, guys. And yeah, comment below and let me know what you think. I'm going to be trying to start making more videos lately. I'm trying to make videos more lately. Leave below any videos you'd like me to make information on. And I've been requested by so many people to start making more YouTube videos. I'm not the person that's going to edit a video for 8 hours. I don't have that time. I have a business. I have another business. I have kids. But I'm going to put content out there. I just push and I freestyle. So hope y'all enjoyed that. All that gym, drama, relationship, industry, drama. And take care, guys. Signing out, Armand.